guys, it's Mary. So I finally got a camera. Yes. If you didn't already know, I got a camera through Instagram, Twitter. Did I put it on Facebook? I can't remember if I put it on Facebook. But I got a camera, so I am now recording on my new camera. Yes. So hopefully things will go better on the camera than they actually do on my computer, like lighting, for instance. Yeah, I do not have a tripod in my possession right now, so once I get a tripod in my possession, I will set it up and you can probably see more of my library, some of my library. But I am going to do my February wrap-up, and I know it's like February 24th and 25th or something, but I know I'm not going to read, or at least finish the rest of the books this month, so I'm just going to, you know, do the books that I either read in February and finished in February, or started at the end, middle of January, and then finished before here, because January was kind of a I don't really want to read month. Let's just watch Netflix, like let's read 3 books at the same time. No. But let's get started. So first of all, I wanted to start off with Uglies by Scott Westerfield. This is an old book. I did this on audiobook. It's basically a futuristic, it's like a dystopian world where people are split into 2 groups, uglies and pretties. And when you turn 16, I believe it is, you get all prettied up and you move from ugly town to pretty town. And so this one girl has a friend in pretty town who she's been friends with for a long time. And then she meets this other girl who runs away. She doesn't want to turn pretty. And so, like, this one girl who's about to turn pretty, the main character, she has to find her friend and a bunch of these other people whom her friend ran off to find, or else she will not turn pretty. So it's basically a story of that and her kind of getting used to the idea of, here's how the world used to be, here's how it is now, what do I want to do? And it was a really good book. I've been wanting to read or listen to this book for a while. I'm not sure if I'll continue on. It kind of left on a cliffhanger, so I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it was a good book. I would definitely recommend it. The next book is Pretties, obviously, if you couldn't tell by the name. And then the next book was Harry Potter: A Journey Through the History of Magic. It is, if you follow Harry Potter or anything, you know that the British Library came out with this, like, History of Magic exhibit, only in England, unfortunately, to those of us who live in other countries that aren't England. So yeah, they had to put out a book. So the unfortunate people who could not go see it get to at least read about it. And it's like, it's things that you would find on Pottermore that, like, you maybe already know from the books. There are some really cool drawings on it, and there are some, like, new information, but a lot of the information I already knew from the books, or Pottermore, which I liked. I liked how I got a little bit more insight. I would definitely recommend this book, but again, you can also find a lot of it on Pottermore. The next book is, I listened to it on an audiobook from the library, so I don't have it. The next book is The Winner's Curse, which is the first book in the Winner's trilogy, Winner's Curse trilogy. And it's basically this high-end girl. She buys a slave, and there's this curse that I'm very like confused on about whoever bids the highest has this curse on them for a slave. And so it goes between her point of view and the other, in the slave's point of view, whose names I forget right now. But he is like working at as a stable hand, and he's hanging out with her secretly. She has been trained by her father to be in a military world, kind of, so she could grow up and be in the military when all she wants to do is play music. So, and in that, the two kind of find refuge in each other, and like it's a story of them kind of falling in love, but it's also like a really nice story, and there's kind of like a twist that you don't see coming, which I really liked, and we'll continue on with that series because I found it a really good series. So yeah. The next book is The Outsiders by S.C. Hinton. Hinton. Whoops. So I'm sure many of you have read this book, whether in school or by yourselves. I have had this version, and my sister has a version like on her bookshelf, but we've had versions of these probably for like 15 years, and like everybody loves this book, and I've had this sitting around like wanting to read it for the longest time. And it's a very short book. It's only about like, it's less than 200 pages. It's like about 150 or something. It isn't that bad, but like my aunt like talks about it a lot, and my sister loved it. So I was just like, finally, you know what? I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna do it. It took me 2 weeks to do it. I was just in such a reading slump, and it sucked, but I really liked it. I really understand why people like it. This is one of the books that I like the book. I love the book, but I don't think I'd read it again just because it made me feel so many things I didn't want to feel, that like sadness, anger, things like that I didn't want to feel at this time, at that time I was reading it, that I will probably not reread it like I do Harry Potter and other books. But it was still a really good book, and if you have not read this book, I would definitely recommend it. I definitely want to see the movie, because apparently the movie's really good. But yeah. The title for this video is probably going to be February: audiobooks and graphic novels. Because I swear most of these are audiobooks and graphic novels. Because one, I was behind on my reading goal challenge, and two, I've wanted to read these for a long time. So the first one is Saga, Volume 7. Yes. There's so many volumes nowadays that I'm just like, which one is it? This is a bind-up of this is a comic bind-up. It's not really a graphic novel, but it's a bind-up of like 5 or 6 of the comics or something that are out. I'm not caught up on them. I just like to read the bind-ups. So like I'm not going to a comic book store like constantly to try to find this series that I know is going to be picked up by every single person. 7 was great. I wouldn't say it was my favorite. If you don't know what Saga is, it's obviously a comic book series. It's kind of a Romeo and Juliet space opera fighting thing. It's basically two races, two parents of different fighting races get married, they have a child, they're trying to keep the child safe from like this bounty hunter, this other king, who wants to kill them because they want the child, and yeah, so it's really good. If you don't want to read anything graphic, there's more than just violence and swears in here. I wouldn't say it would go as far as Sarah J. Maas's books, but I probably would not let anyone under probably 12 or 13 read this book or read any of the other comics, because when you see some of these and read some of these, it's just like, okay, let's get past this part right now before, you know, somebody sees this, because then they're gonna think things. The next two books are by the same author as Saga, Brian K. Vaughan. It is Paper Girls Volumes 2 and Paper Girls 3. And along with Saga, these are bind up of comics that are like 5 or 6, maybe 10. I'm not quite sure, but Saga and Paper Girls I had not read in I don't want to say how many months, probably like 5 or 6 or 7. So once you've read all of those books, you kind of forget the graphic novels. But Paper Girls is basically, the first one is where these 4 girls from this paper route get sucked into this, like, I don't want to say fantasy, but it's like this really weird world. Like, things start coming into the real world, like from the future, and like fantasy stuff that should not be there. And like volume 2 takes like a huge time leap, which I wasn't so fond of because I couldn't remember the ending of the first one in the first place, much less the time leap. But basically it's one of those, like, if you look, you know how people have those links for, if you like this series, like, read these books. Volume 1 was under, if you like Stranger Things, read these books. And at the time, I was loving Stranger Things. It was, I had watched it about 3 times, and I was obsessed. So I started it like a year ago, and then volumes 2 and 3 came out, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna read these because I still like them. So they're really good books. They are not graphic like Saga, but they still are really great comics, and you can definitely tell that the author knows what he's doing. With Saga, Paper Girls, you're like, don't know what's going on. No idea what's going on here. So who is this girl, and who is this girl again, and who's the new girl? But it's still a really good series. I'd pick it up, or like if I haven't read it, and I'm obviously gonna read the 4th one when it comes out sometime. Okay, so the next book was an audiobook I listened to. It was called A Prisoner of Night and Fog by Anne Blankman. It is about this girl who grew up and her uncle, a really good family friend, is Adolf Hitler. It's pre World War II, it's pre Holocaust. So it's in that area. It's kind of like historical fiction, in a way. But you can definitely tell Anne took her time in researching and writing this book because you can really feel the personalities of the characters, and how the real people might have been. Because when you're reading history books and stuff, you can't really tell how a person's personality was, but maybe if you're reading like it in a novel, you might be able to tell. She made the characters very believable in their personality. But it's about a girl who grows up. Her father died protecting Hitler when he was on a walk, and I forget what the walk was for. But her father threw himself in front of Hitler. Her father died, leaving her with her mother and her brother. And her brother has always been very abrasive and very mean. And there's this one scene in the book where he gets kind of like moody and is not at a very good temper, and so immediately her mother and Hitler think, what have you done to make your brother angry? You must have done something. It isn't his fault. But the story is basically about her finding out, okay, like her father's death wasn't what she thought it wasn't like what she was told it was. Everybody was telling her all these things, and basically none of them were true. So a Jewish boy, whom she's grown to like hate the Jews because of Adolf Hitler, she like finds he and her kind of work together and try to find like an answer. He comes up to her, says, hey, like, you know, I might have a clue to your father. And she's like, what do you mean? My father, like, he died. He is not like that. And he eventually she succeeds, and the boy helps her find out what happened to her father. And so it's kind of a romance between them, but it doesn't take the forefront. It's kind of subtle and it's kind of slow happening. It's not over a long period of time, but it's slow and happening, and the forefront is her finding out what happened to her father, learning that everything she knows to be about her father, about Jews, about Hitler, is false. He's not the man she thought he was. Her father didn't die the way she thought he did, and this boy who's a Jew whom she falls in love with is not this monster that Hitler says. So I found it a really great book, and I think that everybody should kind of read it, because it just kind of gives you a look into that world, that if you didn't grow up in that time, that might have happened, especially if you were close and in Germany and in that political wartime that did happen. Can't wait to read the sequel. Said so many times. Okay, and then the next book is Marissa Meyer book, and it is Wires and Nerves Volume 2, Gone Rogue. And this is the graphic novel of the sequel of Wires and Nerves that came out last year. It takes place between the epilogue of Stars Above, like the last story, and the ending of Winter. The book Winter, obviously not the season. But it's basically about Eco going out to try to find Steel, whom, if you don't remember, is a human-wolf hybrid. And so the first book is about her and Kinney, like, trying to find him, and Cinder has put Kinney in Eco's, like, protection because she doesn't want Eco to go off and do something stupid with that protection. So this book is just a follow-up. It obviously has all the same characters again. It has a different drawer, artist, which I thought was really interesting from the first one to the second one. But I found the second one more intriguing than the first one. The first one we obviously get to know the story. The second one we obviously get to see the fight. We get to see everything that's happening, why it's happening, and why Steel is doing all of the things he's doing. So I would definitely recommend this if you are looking for more Lunar Chronicles. This was honestly a really great book. And finally, a book I said in my last video that I was going to read this year that has been on my shelf for years and I have not picked up. I've heard many great things about it. I started it in January, and it is Eragon. I technically haven't finished it, as you can tell by the Doctor Who bookmark. 9 is my favorite. If you like Doctor Who, tell me which Doctor below is your favorite. I've about 85 pages left, something like that. I have also been listening to this on audiobook from the library because obviously, like, I can't have my book with me all the time. It takes up too much space. When I go to the gym, it's just kind of nice to, like, hear it and, like, get further in the book. And especially when it's, like, 9 o'clock at night. I'm tired from the gym. I don't want to read anymore, so I just put my headphones in for, like, an hour and a half and just, like, oh, okay, here's, like, 5 chapters gone. I like this book. I'm not entirely sure unless the the ending turns out to be great, that I'll continue on with the series. But I really, really enjoyed this book. It goes kind of slow, which I don't really like, but it's really an amazing kind of tale, and it has dragons in it, which I really like. Which is one of the main reasons I like Game of Thrones. Dragons. Love them! Okay. I will finish this tonight. I will finish this by February. So obviously, like I've said before, no March TBR, because I don't like doing TBRs anymore. I will continue to do wrap-ups though. So I will see you guys in a few weeks with another video. Okay, bye!